All right, so in our last video, we talked about intro to the judicial branch. I know I threw a lot of info at you about the court systems, but what we're going to do this time around is talk about the U.S. court systems, or the federal courts, all right? And this takes the shape of what's called a SAD cake, S-A-D. Not a cake like this, like a red velvet cake, but it does have 3 levels, okay? And it looks like this: Supreme, Appeals, and District. So please make sure that you have written down Supreme, Appeals, and District in the proper places on the SAD cake that's in your note sheet. Supreme, Appeals, and District, all right? So we talk about district court. Let's talk about just the court system in general for a second. So when you, if you were to go to court, all right, your case travels upward, okay, from the bottom to the top of the cake, all right? So the bottom district is super wide because there are a lot of people who wind up in district court. Supreme is very small because very few people actually wind up having their case heard in Supreme Court, all right? So you travel up the ranks here of the federal court system. All right, starting at the bottom is district. All right, so the federal district level, make sure you're filling this in as we go along. The jurisdiction they have is original. Okay, so in district court, your case gets heard the very first time around that it is presented to anyone. Okay, so it have original jurisdiction, or OJ. The number there are 94 total. All right, 94 total districts, and there's at least 1 in each state. Right, so we have 50, 1 per state, and then based on the population of that state, they might have a couple more, because the more people you have, the more likely they are to commit crimes. All right, your case is heard by a judge and a jury. All right, so the jury itself issues a verdict, remember, all right, and then a judge does not say guilty or not guilty. The judge's job is to give you a sentence based on what the jury says. All right, 90% of all federal cases start here. And so only 10% of them jump to a higher level in order to begin. Only the federal court, this is the only federal court to hear cases and reach verdicts. The other 2 levels of court, appeals and supreme, do not reach a verdict. Nobody says guilty or not guilty. They are worried about whether or not the law has been applied fairly to you. They don't care about the verdict. They care about the process. Okay, so what happened to you? Did you get your due process or not? All right. So, vocab, surprise, fill this in, all right? If you want to pause and fill in and then listen later, that is fine, all right? So a marshal's job is to protect the jurors, all right? So when people found O.J. Simpson innocent, people were all kinds of upset, okay? They were threatening the jurors' lives. They were like, we're going to come for you. We're going to kill you in the night, blah, blah, blah. That man killed those women. You should have known better than to find him not guilty. Okay, so a marshal's job, United States Marshal, is to protect jurors. They arrest criminals who have been gone on the run. All right, they also serve subpoenas and they collect fines. All right, a subpoena, it's a weird word. It's got weird spelling. This is basically, it's a get your tail to court order. All right, you have been ordered to appear in court and you must abide by this. If you decide like, meh, I'm just not going, all right, you're going to get arrested for failure to appear, FTA. All right, and that is a misdemeanor, unless you do it a whole bunch, and then it turns into a felony, which is stressful, okay? So a subpoena is in order to appear in court. The grand jury is not the jury you're thinking of in your head. The grand jury decides that there's enough evidence to move on to a trial in the first place, okay? So before we waste our time having 12 people sit in a little box and listen to people complain and whine and gripe and testify for months and months on end, we're going to decide if there's enough evidence to even go to the trial in the first place. A grand jury is usually anywhere from 20 to 25 people, all right? So they sit in a room, they hear testimonies from typically between 3 and 5 people, and they decide if there's enough evidence to move on in the first place. The district attorney, or the DA, prosecutes people. So the people versus O.J. Simpson. The district attorney represents the people who are essentially the ones who are charging someone with a crime. All right, they prosecute people charged of breaking federal law. To prosecute just means to put you on trial and research to make sure that a crime has actually been committed and you are actually guilty. All right, so it's a lawyer for the people. An attorney / your public attorney that will be appointed to you by the state of North Carolina if you cannot afford one. All right, they represent the defendant. Okay, they're that lawyer. Defendant is whoever is accused of the crime. The judge issues a sentence, and the petite jury, the small jury, usually 12 people. This is the one that you're probably thinking about. They decide guilty or innocent. Like, how do you define the defendant? That's that jury. All right. This man, you recognize him as Wesley Snipes. His actual Christian government name is Monroe Hutchin. Wesley Snipes sounds better. Okay, so he got arrested and sent to federal district court because he decided he was too cool to pay his taxes. He spent 3.5 years in prison, and he paid them all back. Don't be that person. Pay your taxes. All right, we're going to move up now. Let's say that Wesley Snipes has been found guilty. He's been convicted of a crime now, and he says, the law has not been applied fairly to me. All right, he and his lawyer can get together, and he can write what's called a petition to appeal. So he can write this little thing down and explain, I think my case has been unfairly handled because of X, Y, and Z, and he can turn it into the appeals court. All right, so the federal appeals level or appellate level, these can also be called other names like appellate court, circuit courts, or the court of appeals. All right, their jurisdiction is AP, appellate. Number, there are 13 plus DC. DC has its own little federal court circuit, all right? They're super special, but there are 13 that are divided amongst the 50 states, all right? We are in the 4th district that is located, the head of it is located in Richmond, Virginia, okay? All right, they are heard by, when you open the doors to an appeals court, you're not going to see the whole, 2 tables, one for each side, and then the jury sits over in the corner in the little box. You're not going to see any of that. You will see 3 judges who sit on their little raised platform, and then you'll have your lawyer and you, and that's it. All right, there is no district attorney in there. There are no other lawyers. It is just a 3-judge panel. Okay, so it's usually called a tribunal. All right, and these 3 judges have 3 choices. Okay, they can, number 1, they can keep the decision from the lower court or deny your appeal and be like, nah, you're being extra. The law was applied fairly to you. Get out. Okay, they can overturn your case and be like, the law was most assuredly applied unfairly to you. All right, so we're going to change this and overturn it. All right, and you become a free person. You can turn in your orange jumpsuit and your fake heads and go about your merry way. All right, number 3 is remand or send back to a lower court. You get a whole new jury. All right, so that way, if your jury is, if they're like, I feel like the case was sound, all right, and the law was applied unfairly to you, except we're not sure that the jury actually did their job this time. We'll give you a new one, okay? So again, number 1, they can keep the lower court's decision and deny you an appeal. Nah, you're being extra. Put an X to the left of number 1, so you do not get your stuff overturned. All right, number 2 is overturn. So was the law applied unfairly to you? Yes. So put a check mark beside overturn. The law was applied unfairly to you. Or remand, put a little dash here, just a straight line, like a hyphen. All right, so we're not really sure if the law was applied unfairly. We'll give you a new jury and give you another try, give you another crack at the case. All right. Okay, so here's some boundaries. Again, we are in circuit number 4. All right, this is what the appeals court circuits look like. Poor little Alaska and Hawaii are just kind of lumped in over here with circuit number 9. So again, we are in circuit 4. Tom Brady, when he decided, I'm going to appeal my suspension. All right. It got denied. Man still sat out during the game. All right, and it's lost. So his appeal got denied. All right, he appealed to a federal appeals judge and was like, hey, I want to appeal my case. I feel as though the law has been applied unfairly to me and that I should not be suspended. All right, they denied his appeal and did not allow him to move forward. Okay, they kept the decision of the lower court. All right, now let's say that you for real think that the law has been applied unfairly to you and you're tired of fooling around with the appeals court and you're going to go to the big dogs. You're going to bring out the big guns and talk to the Supreme Court. Okay, who's on the Supreme Court? All right, AKA SCOTUS. We call them SCOTUS. This is not a disease. I've got the SCOTUS. That's not what it means. SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS. All right, so when you see SCOTUS project here in a second, that's what that means. All right, when we talk about jurisdiction, when are they allowed to hear a case? They have 2 kinds, all right, instead of just one. All right, they have both original, OG or OJ, and AP, and appellate, all right? So if a case has been heard by 2 lower courts, federal district, federal appeals, okay, if you as a person still feel as though the law has been applied unfairly to you, even though an appeals court has said, yes, it has been applied fairly to you, you can petition the Supreme Court to hear your case, all right? So they only have original jurisdiction, though, in 2 cases or 2 circumstances, all right? So a case between states. Let's say that the North Carolina District Attorney's Office was suing the South Carolina District Attorney's Office. If you hold the trial in one state or the other, somebody is going to claim that it's biased, all right? And you can't really do that, all right? So we're going to have it on neutral ground in Washington, D.C. We also have cases with foreign diplomats, all right? So if you are a foreign diplomat, you represent a whole entire other country. You do not want to have your case heard in little podunk, small town, North Carolina in a state court. You want your case to be heard in federal Supreme Court. You want the highest level of the judicial system to look at your case. All right, so when we talk about a number, there is one Supreme Court. There is only one of them. They are the supreme rulers of the land, all right? And you got 9 justices, 1 chief, so 1 squad leader, and 8 squad members, 8 associate. And it is heard, your case is heard by all 9 justices, or a quorum, aka, hope you remember what it means, because there's a question coming up. All right, so this Judiciary Act tells us what a quorum is. There were a whole bunch of random Judiciary Acts throughout the years. This is our old Supreme Court. This guy is no longer with us. All right, this is Justice Antonin Scalia. He has been replaced by Justice Neil Gorsuch, who was recently appointed by Donald Trump and approved by the United States Senate. All right, so here are our 9 people. All right, this is the building that they work in. This is the Supreme Court. All right, and that is all for federal courts.